Hey, welcome everyone. Hope you can all hear me this time. Okay, 1 second. Yep, all looks good. Right, so it's been a couple of weeks, I think, since the last stream. I've been very busy doing lots of bug fixing and small features. So you've probably seen I just posted on Twitter the latest update, version 28. And as you can see, lots and lots of very small things. I've had lots of new people discovering 10x again, and everyone finds different bugs, which is great. So I've had lots of feedback. So today I thought I would take general questions if anyone's got any. So if you have, then please post them in the chat, and we'll see how it goes. If not, I think I was going to take you through Workspaces. So I've had a few questions recently about Workspaces, how they work, and how to get them to do what you want. So let's take you through. So let's just open up the 10x workspace. So I call them workspaces. In Visual Studio, obviously they're called solutions. So as I'm sure you're all aware, 10x can open up Visual Studio solutions and projects. I probably don't need to tell you much about that because it works as you'd expect. If you know about that, you'll know how to work it pretty much. One thing is that 10x obviously is read-only on the projects. You can't actually change any settings or anything yet. That's pretty tricky. I mean, the project files are just XML, so they're easy to read up, read in, but changing them is a whole other matter. Maybe one day, we'll see. Anyway, for now, you can load up your solutions and work with them. What can I say about these? So the one thing you can do, I have added settings here. So these are local settings that are just for you. They're not stored in the solution or project anywhere. And it has stuff like additional include paths that you can set up. I mean, hopefully 10x should find automatically the additional include paths from the project files. But occasionally that's not possible, and you might want to add extra things, so you can add them here. What this means is the parser will parse all the things in these folders. So that's just something you can add if you need to. I've recently, last week, or this week I think, added exclude filters. So you can, if you want, you can exclude, say, external libraries, and you can just, it's just a list of wildcard exclude paths. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Also, if you've got really large projects, you might want to exclude stuff to save on memory at the moment, which is quite large. And you've got the debug settings, the command arguments. So these are the same things you have in Visual Studio, where you can set the command arguments and stuff in working directory. So yeah, not much, but it's good to know that it's there. I've also added a few days ago workspace settings, so you can get to them here as well in the menu, because a lot of people don't realize they have to right click on to do stuff with this. So you can just add them here. What else have we got? That's probably all I can say about you. Oh yeah, setting the active project. You do set active, so you can see it's not very obvious at the moment, a little white box around the project. And that just means when you build or run, it will build or run that project. So for me, I've got it set to my 10x. This has main CPP in it. So yeah, we'll just build and run that. Or you can just do right-click build as well. So yeah, not much more to say on the solution workspaces. So let's go to, what should we do next? Let's go to I'll tell you what, let's create a workspace. So let's give it a path. So I created this workspace test folder, which just has some folders and random files in it, just to set up as a test. So let's call the workspace test. As you see, it creates test.10x workspace. So the file types are a list of wildcards for what files to include when it syncs the file. So if I have sync files set to true here, it'll sync all the files in this folder recursively, and it'll only include files of those extensions. I've also added exclude filters, so you can, if I wanted to say exclude folder 3, you could put folder 3 star or / star. So that should help. So let's go ahead and create that. So as you can see, because I put sync true, it's included everything by default. Let's save that and I'll show you what it's created. I'm going to use Notepad for this. So hopefully you can see that. So again, file types, all files, sync files true, recursive true. I'll explain virtual in a bit. And then you've got just the build commands and settings, etc. Configurations, which you can't actually add them in 10x yet. So you'd have to close 10x and do it in a file by hand for now. And that's all it has. Because it's got sync true, it doesn't store any of these here. Every time you open it, it will resync and get those files. To keep this fast, because when you've got a really big workspace and sync files set to true, obviously that could be quite slow because it has to trawl through potentially thousands and thousands of files and folders on your disk before it opens. So what I do is I actually store this off in a cache. So I have it stores out a binary file, just in case you ever need to change it. It's stored in, where is it stored in? Cache, I think. Workspaces. It's not stored there. Where is it? I've forgotten now. Maybe I'll put it in Workspaces. Okay. I can't remember where it's stored. Somewhere. If you ever need to know, let me know and I'll find it. Anyway, it stores a binary file, which is essentially this tree, and it loads it up instantly. So when you open up a file with thousands of folders and files, it should load up instantly, and then in the background, after it's loaded, it will sync the files to what is actually currently on your disk. So hopefully it should stay pretty fast. What else can we say about this? So again, we've got the settings. So it says the name of the workspace, sync files, etc. So you've got build commands as well. You can set batch files or anything you like in these. The working directory I fixed now is actually the folder that the workspace is in. So that should make it a bit easier for you. You can add, just like Visual Studio, you can add what they call macros, which expand to these settings. Actually, yeah, you can't change it. Except you can't change them. It lists them, but you can't change them yet. I'll get that in at some point. And again, just like solutions, you've got additional include paths. So yeah, that's that so far. I'll probably be expanding this over time. So let me know if there's anything you need. I should say I don't actually use what I call 10x workspaces myself yet, so they haven't had a huge amount of testing. I've been stuck in Visual Studio land so long now. I can't remember what it's like not to use Visual Studio. Hopefully one day I'll escape that. So close that. I'll show you, I'll create this workspace again. So let's delete that one. So if I do create workspace, we use the same folder, call it test again. But this time I'll turn off syncing and recursive. So if we go ahead and create that, as you can see it hasn't got anything in it this time, and it won't sync on load anymore. And I can add folders and files I want manually by hand. So if I do add existing folder, let's say folder 1, and again I'm going to leave sync on for this so it does sync the files in that folder. Let's go ahead and add another one. Okay, so let's save that. So as you can see now, it has stored the folder subnodes in here, folder 1, folder 2, and they're set to sync recursive. You can also add files here as well, either new files or existing files. So if I go back to here and add test.cvp there, so all going well. If I save that, close it, yeah, so it's all there, good. So what else have we got? That's probably about all there is to 10x Workspaces so far. And like I said, I feel it gives you enough to get going with your projects if they're not Visual Studio based. But yeah, do let me know if you want anything added to them. I'll show you also folder workspaces. Have I got one here? Let's do open folder. So let's just open up my entire libs directory of everything. So again, you see that opened instantly, even though it's got thousands of files in it. It opened instantly because I've opened it before and it's cached all of the files. And it's also parsed everything in it as well, with the parser. So folder workspaces are the same as 10x workspaces. Essentially what it does is it creates a 10x workspace, but then just doesn't save the workspace file. So what I've recently added this week is if you open a folder like this, like I said, it creates a workspace, and you can actually set the settings on it. So you know, you could set the build command, for example, update. And now if I save that, it should prompt me to save the actual workspace. So in my libs folder, it's now created a libs.10x workspace. You can't rename it at the moment, but you can do that by hand afterwards. So if I do that, let's see, it's changed the icon here to actually, so you can now see it's a workspace rather than just a folder. If I do open folder, show you the file. So again, it's a really simple workspace. It's literally got sync set to true, and then I've set the build batch file, and that's it. For some reason it's got test folder. I don't know why that's there. Let's have a look at that. So I don't think that's in. No. Maybe I've saved it before. But anyway, that's how it should work. So one other thing you can do forgot to say, let's open the little test workspace again. Is you can create what I call virtual folder, add new virtual folder. So this is basically a grouping folder. You're not adding a folder on disk. Let's call it test group. So this is adding a folder. It doesn't exist anywhere. That's why I've called it virtual. But you can add files to it or folders to it, just like any other folder. So if I do add existing file, just some random file somewhere on disk, it doesn't matter where, and then you can do that. So if you see in my 10x workspace, because I haven't shown you that yet. So as you've probably seen before, my 10x is all written in Visual Studio projects. So I've got a solution with all these projects and libraries in it, external libraries. And so as a test, I've created the 10x workspace as a 10x workspace. And I've called it 10x workspaces. So as you can see, it maps to what's in Visual Studio at the moment. So for each of these libraries, I've just created a separate workspace. So the nice thing about the way 10x works is it doesn't have the concept of, like Visual Studio, a solution and then a project. It just has a workspace, and you can embed workspaces in workspaces, which is really nice. So all of these are what I call workspace references. So if I did add existing workspace, I can then go and find on disk another workspace I've already set up, for example, core.10x workspace. That's one I've set up previously. And then I can add that, and it will add it as a reference. So if I go and change this outside of 10x or in another project that's sharing these libraries, it should all stay in sync. I've already added that, so I'm not going to add it again. So the other thing I've done is added this external folder, which is what I was talking about just now, a virtual folder. So this doesn't exist on disk. It's just a grouping folder, and then I've put my external libraries, which, as you can see, isn't very many. So yeah, this all works very nicely. I've set up build commands for this. I haven't. I did at some point, calling into Visual Studio to actually build it, and it all works fairly nicely. So at some point, I'd like to move over to using 10x workspaces rather than solutions. But for now, because all the compile settings are in there, then I'm just going to stay with that for now. So I'll just quickly show you what this looks like as a file. So the workspace, so this is the equivalent of a solution file. As you can see, it has the external, and then, as I was saying, this is a workspace reference. So this is referencing another .10x workspace. And there's nothing different about these workspaces as to this workspace. So it's really nice and simple, where you can just embed workspaces in other workspaces. And then I've just added all of my libraries here. So again, it's a very simple file, this one. This is the main one. And then the other one is for the actual library, and that's set to sync files true, and that just, like I said, contains the main CPP and stuff, lots of stuff. So that's my main CPP file. Right, so yeah, like I said, that's Workspaces. You've got Visual Studio Solution Workspaces, and you've got 10x Workspaces, and you've got Folder Workspaces, which are essentially just 10x Workspaces anyway. And hopefully you can configure them to however you want. Right, I think that's probably all I wanted to say about Workspaces. Let's have a look at the chat. Would it be possible to edit files remotely in SSH? It's not something I've thought about yet. Yeah, I potentially could add that at some point. It's not something I've any experience in, but I'm sure it can't be that difficult. Yeah, it would be a nice thing to add. So, question, do you have any plans to implement small-scale code navigation features that can be rebound, like jump to next brief, camel case word, jump to start end of line, jump to start end of scope? So I think I've got all those. Not sure whether they can be rebound. I think they can. So, for example, let's see if we've got next word. It's probably under navigation. Yeah, I think control, like when you do control arrow keys to jump next word, I think actually that's hard coded at the moment. I don't think you can remap it. So I'll add that to the list. Everything that can be remapped pretty much you can find in these menus. It shows the mapping. You can change that in the key bindings file here. Let's just have a look. No, word. Yeah, I don't have moved to preview next word that can be bound yet. So yeah, if there's anything like that, just let me know, and they're easy enough to add. So another question, any plans on making disable code, for example, if zero, end if, turn dim? Yes, I've actually got that in another branch at the moment. It's the main feature I'm working on at the moment, which is the preprocessor. Because at the moment, 10x Parser it just completely ignores all the preprocessor statements, so it doesn't do any preprocessing, which can make some stuff break in a parser, and it looks like it's not working, and then you dig into it and you find out it's just because something's using a macro or if-def out or something. So when I've done that, the parser should be a whole lot better. It should find a lot more stuff then. And like I said, I'm kind of halfway through the task, which I've been doing on and off now for months, because as you can imagine, it's quite a big project, big task to do. And it's working pretty well. So I've got if zero working, and it grays it out, and the parser ignores it, and I've got simple macros working as well. So yeah, hopefully next week I'm gonna really get back to that and see if I can get it finished off. So that should help a lot. What happens if you have a circular workspace reference? Do you get a lovely infinite tree? I haven't tried it yet. Probably explode in a complete mess. Yeah, it probably will just hang on startup, so don't do that yet. So yeah, just be a bit careful. Be a bit gentle with it, because like I said, I haven't done a huge amount of testing on the 10x Workspaces yet. But yeah, it'll get better over time. So let me know if you've got any more questions. Let's see if I can think of anything else. So the way I've implemented it, both 10x Workspaces and Solution Workspaces both inherit from this workspace file, and they both have a lot of common features, so that makes it quite easy. And obviously doing the tree and everything, that's all shared between both implementations, so it's pretty nice. So hopefully it won't be too much to keep supporting them both. Okay, so question, what are your thoughts about extending 10x with syntax highlighting for other languages? Yes, I definitely want to do it. I chose to do C++ first because it's the hardest, and because it's language I know the most about. I'll probably do C# next, because that will share a lot of the stuff from the C++ parser and hopefully be a bit simpler. And then I'll do things like Python and, I don't know, probably PHP and, I don't know, other simple languages. The nice thing is with my parser, the way it works is I can add things incrementally, so I don't have to write a full C# compiler, essentially. I can just start adding things, a bit like I've done with the C++ parser, and over time add more and more and more till it gets more and more complete. And that's what's been happening over the years now with the C++ parser. I'm constantly supporting new features in C++ I don't support yet. It's probably never going to be 100% coverage on all the latest C++ and the most complex things you can do with C++, but it'll. My goal with the parser is to make it reliable. So although it may not be, I'm not like writing a C++ compiler that's 100% compliant to all the standards, but I can probably get 95% of the way there. And I think the nice thing with the way I've approached it, which I've talked about in my other streams, is that it should be very reliable. I mean, a lot of the other solutions you get, it works, and then for some reason it just goes into a fit and starts spinning progress bars, etc., and it can't find something that's 5 lines above where you are. Hopefully my system won't be like that. You know, what it does, it will do consistently and it will do it fast, but it may never be 100% compliant. And that I'm going to do the other languages in the same way. So once I've probably done the preprocessor, that's the last big thing I need to do on C++, then I'll probably start looking at C# and getting in for that. I have thought about doing maybe just a solution for syntax highlighting, which some other editors have, using regular expressions and things like that. And then people could configure it to work with whatever language they like, which I think is a really powerful thing. But obviously that won't give you all the parsing and the go-to definition and find references and things like that. So yeah, I'll think about it. I may well do a syntax highlighting solution first before I do full parsing for C#, because obviously that will take a bit longer. But yeah, it's definitely something I want to do, support other languages. Probably the main focus is always going to be on C++, because I think that's where an IDE is needed the most. I mean, the IDEs, like Visual Studio, is pretty good for C#, and obviously because they've written a language, they have perfect IntelliSense for C#, and I'm probably never going to get that. So yeah, C++ will always be the main focus of 10x, I imagine, but we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I'll be adding that soon, hopefully. Is there a Mac version planned sometime soon or in the far future? Probably further future than soon, but yeah, I'd like to do that. I've been asked by quite a few people for a Mac version. The way I've written it, it shouldn't be that difficult to port, famous last words, but I've already got an OpenGL renderer, which renders on OpenGL 2.1, I think, so it should work on Mac. I just need to get the sort of supporting stuff like creating a window, handling user input, and plug all that in, and fingers crossed it should just work. So it's probably no more than a month or 2 of work for someone to do. What I'd really like to do with that is once I get 10x out of beta and it starts to be a proper product, which people pay for, then if it all goes well, I'd love to hire someone to do some of these ports, like porting to Linux as well. So yeah, it's definitely planned. I'd love to do that, but probably not in the near future. Probably a bit further out. Okay, another question. Are you planning an in-GUI file and folder browser? I'm thinking of something like 4Coder has, if you're familiar with it. I'm not actually that familiar with 4Coder. I've had a quick look at it. 10x now calls someone when opening a file, but it might be nice to use keyboard. So I guess you're referring to the file open dialog, like bringing up the OS dialog. It's just a Windows dialog, which, to be honest, I never use. I always use Workspace search, and then, oops. So, for example, you can open any file on the disk very easily with autocomplete there. So that's what I like to use. I never actually. You can open solution files from here as well, or Workspaces or whatever. So that's what I like to use instead of doing the file open. But yeah, it's a nice idea to have some kind of explorer where you could maybe have a tree, like this kind of tree here in 10x. That's quite a nice idea. Yeah, I'll add that to the list and have a think about it. Someone saying how great it was to use 10x on a UE4 project. That's good. Yeah, I do see Unreal as one of my sort of target markets, hopefully, because I've used Unreal and it's tough to use it in most editors. You either have a fast editor or you have an editor which does IntelliSense type things, but very rarely do you get both. So that was one of my motivating factors for writing 10x. Yeah. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Just seeing what else I've done recently, if there's anything worth mentioning. I mean, loads of these things are just really small things. Just kind of usability things. It's amazing how differently people use an editor, and they'll find things I've never even thought of, which they use every single day. And yeah, it's so valuable to have all this feedback. Yeah, I should probably mention that if you're not aware, the Visual Studio workspaces support syncing with the Visual Studio debugger, which I think I've shown before on one of the other ones. But basically, you can sync breakpoints. You can press F5 in 10x to start Visual Studio debugger and use it like that. It's kind of an experimental feature, so if it works well, I can always add more syncing between Visual Studio and 10x. So yeah, let me know how you get on with that. So yeah, I'm constantly adding more Python binding functions so that people can script 10x more. So again, let me know if you need anything for your scripting. It's pretty easy to add these, to expose anything to Python. I was thinking maybe next live stream I'll talk about the Python scripting more and show you how you can use it to do some more complex things, because it's pretty powerful once you get to know it. Oh yeah, autocomplete should now include all STL files. So, for example, so it should include all of the STL files now. I don't support all of them in the parser yet. So if there is something in STL that you use that isn't covered yet, let me know. I've got, what have I got so far? These are the files I've got so far. Arrays, the main containers, list, map, etc. Smart pointers, I've got strings, obviously. So, I hope you can still see me. I seem to have lost my second monitor. I've noticed when I magnify on my main monitor, my second monitor starts blinking and I can't actually see what's going on. Hang on, let me see if I can get it back. Okay. Bear with me a moment. I'm just going to try and get the chat window so I can actually see if you've got any questions. I can see it, but it's now very, very small. There we go. How do you generally feel about code analysis to point out and/or correct errors as you type? What about code style formatting and forcing? Okay, so I've got some simple formatting. As you type, it will format stuff to a degree, which you can, I think, turn off if you want. So for example, if I don't indent something, or if I do semicolon, it'll indent. If you do close brace, it'll indent everything in the block, stuff like that, and put spaces like between the if and the open bracket. Really simple stuff like that. If you don't like it, you can turn that off. But I kind of have got used to it now and find it quite useful. You can also format the entire file. What did I do that? Formatting, edit formatting, you can format selection or format the entire file. Be careful with those because I haven't tested them fully and I don't want to mess up your entire file. But yeah, see how you get on with it. I know other people have added Python scripts for formatting in more standard ways with stuff. So that's, and you can like hook into on save. So when 10x saves a file, it will call into your Python script and you can call out to any formatting tool that you want to use. So it's pretty easy to set that up if you want to. As for the other question, about code analysis and point out errors and stuff, yeah, I've never really liked that, to be honest. I know some people do. So it kind of, like the red underlined squiggles, I guess you're talking about, that Visual Studio does. I kind of find them a bit annoying sometimes. But it's something I can do. It's not, because I've got most of the information now from the parser. So it's something I've thought about doing. And I may well try it at some point. Maybe I can find a solution that I don't find annoying. Because sometimes it can be useful to like see errors before you've compiled or anything. And it does save a little bit of time, which is nice sometimes. So yeah, I will look at that. I did actually think of just compiling the file in the background and then getting the parser output and using that to highlight stuff that's wrong. So that might be a more reliable solution because, like I said, the parser isn't 100% complete on C++, so it will start highlighting stuff as errors just because it doesn't understand it, not because it's wrong. And that would be very annoying, I think. So yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I'll do some experimenting and see what I can get working. For the very simple errors like a missing semicolon or something, I can probably do something useful for that. But what I don't want is for, like some editors, you open a file and it's highlighting almost every line with red underscore squiggles, and it's just really annoying just because you haven't added some include header somewhere or something. So yeah, I will experiment with that at some point, and we'll have to see how it goes. So I've still lost my sector. It's back. Right. Remind me not to zoom in with Windows Zoom. My monitor setup just really doesn't like it. Okay, what else have we got? Are you using your own window sizing and dragging implementation? I'm using PowerToys to handle window resizing, and currently it is not working with 10x. I don't know what PowerToys is or how it would do window resizing. That's strange. You probably mean like dragging the window around like this and resizing and docking and things like that. I do. There's a whole story to tell about how I managed to get the window rendering not to have a big white bar at the top, like other things like here. There's no way, it's really difficult to get rid of the bar at the top of a Windows window and still have it dockable and minimizable and stuff like that. And maybe I'll talk about that some other time, but I spent a whole week trying to find a way so that I could take over all of the rendering of the non-client area of Windows. I even render my own drop shadow around the window. So I'm actually rendering all of the non-client stuff, which a lot of apps don't do. And I can see why they don't do it. I don't think Microsoft want you to do that. But I found a way of getting it working. So these are all my own buttons and everything. What that does mean is some things aren't supported. Like if I do Windows left and right buttons to say dock to the right side, I don't think that works at the moment. And certain other things. So I'm guessing that's what you're talking about. And that's probably why it's not working with external Windows arrangement. It's a really tricky thing to do and to get right. But feel free to post a bug. If you've got something specific, I might be able to take a look and see why it's not working. Okay, yeah. Background compilation sounds good if you can get it unintrusively. Yeah, exactly. My only worry with that is people might not be expecting it to compile in the background, and as long and where to put the obj files, so that it doesn't screw up any other compilations you've got going and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tricky. But I think it could be worth a shot. So yeah, hopefully that answers your questions. So isn't title bar option when creating a window with API? Last time I used it, like 15 years ago. Yeah, it hasn't. I don't think it's got any better in 15 years, but no, you can't do that, unfortunately. I will show you just quickly if I can remember. I'm actually trying to forget that. It was such a horrendous experience. It was just when I kind of first started 10x and I thought, okay, the first thing I'll do is I'll get rid of that horrible white bar at the top that all Windows have, and it almost seemed impossible. There's no setting you can just tell it to remove that. And I think I created a define for it somewhere. Custom frame. There's all sorts of hacks you've got to do to actually take over the non-client rendering so that you're rendering the full thing. It was actually fascinating when I was going through it, because as I was digging through and disabling different bits of the WinProc function and different flags and things, the client frame DC and everything, you can actually see how Windows is put together, and I actually got it back to something like Windows XP or something. It's still under there. They're just rendering stuff over the top of it. So you've got like 3 or 4 different layers of UIs kind of laying on top of each other, at least from what I could tell. And they're kind of masking out some bits and overwriting other bits, and it's actually a complete mess. It was really horrendous to do. So I kind of don't want to touch that again unless I really have to. I can't even remember what to show you, to be honest. It was so involved. For something so simple, it was a crazy amount of work. Like I said, it took me a whole week just to get that, and I almost gave up before I started 10x. I thought, wow, this is going to take me forever if it takes this long just to do that. Like I said, I've got my own drop shadow bitmap, which I render around the edges. So yeah, I really can't remember what to show you about that, to be honest. See if I can find my WinProc function. Here we go. So I am doing my own handling of the non-client area, calculation size, things like that. Oh God, yeah, this was horrible. NC activate, handle NC activate. Yeah, all sorts of hacks going on there. But anyway, it seems to work mostly for most things, so I'll leave it for now, I think. Okay, what else have we got? Okay. Someone's saying it'd be a good blog post for all of us who want to do the same. Yeah, I know. I'm really kicking myself that I didn't write it as I was going, because it would probably take me a week to dig back through it all again, and I haven't got time to spend that writing a blog post. So yes, I'm really annoyed that I didn't actually document it as I was going, because it would have been fascinating. I was fascinated by it, because it really shows you how the Windows UI rendering is done, and it's quite surprising, because it's funny. I mean, when I was looking around at different apps, even something like, I think it was VS Code, had that big white bar at the top, and stuff like Chrome and things don't have that, and they can put tabs right up here, right into the drag bar area, which you just can't do on normal Windows apps. And I started to realise that there's a reason why most people don't do it, because it's incredibly hard. So something as simple as that, just to make your app look a bit distinct or different. Obviously Microsoft don't want you to do that. They want to keep control of this top bar for some reason. I guess to make everything look standard. They don't want people messing around with this kind of stuff and doing things differently, which is fair enough. But yeah, it would be a useful blog, wouldn't it? And if I ever need to do it again, I think I would appreciate that blog. But anyway, maybe one day I will. So yeah. Yeah, someone's just saying it's annoying having that glowing white bar. Yeah, I like dark mode. I don't want any big white bar at the top. You know, it does my eyes in, especially when I'm programming late, which is often. So, just seeing if there's anything else it's worth talking about. Oh, here we go. There's something interesting where it's drawing the shadow bitmap. Using the alpha blend function on Windows. So each of these is a separate texture, a separate draw call. And it actually creates the window that's bigger than the size of the window you've got. So if you ask what the window size is, it will tell you this, but the actual window size goes right to the corners, and then these bits here are the shadow bits around the edges, which does get very confusing, especially when you go full screen, because it actually, you know, when you're not full screen, you probably can't see this. Well, I'm sure you can't see this with the stream compression, but around the edges you've got a very small drop shadow. If I put it on a white background, you'll be able to see. Yeah, you won't be able to see that, and I'm not going to zoom in because I'll screw up my second monitor again. But anyway, you can zoom in and have a look, and there's this drop shadow behind. So the window is actually bigger by about 8 pixels or 16 pixels than the actual window is. But then when you maximize it, obviously it's got to go right to the edges of the screen. And you think, well, what does it do? Does it take off that extra border that I'm talking about in here? No, it just creates a bigger window and clips it outside the screen area, at least if I'm remembering correctly. So it's still rendering it, it's just clipped off the top of the screen. So you've got a window which is at -8 when it's maximized, which again is really weird. It may be that I'm doing it incorrectly, you know, but there's no documentation on this. Microsoft, like I said, just don't want you to do it, I think. But anyway, I found a way to make it work. I mean, I could share this code if you want, but it's probably not very self-explanatory. Okay. So yeah, like I said in my tweet, if there is anything you'd like me to go through on 10x and talk about, I'm happy to talk about pretty much anything. You know, I want to share good practices and ways of doing things which work well, and yeah, show off what 10x can do. So yeah, like I said, I was thinking of next stream of doing the Python scripting, show you how to use that in a bit more detail. But let me know if there's anything else you want me to go through, and I'm happy to talk about it. So, if there are no more questions, I think I'll log off. Thanks for joining me. It's been really good, and thanks for all your really good questions. Always makes a difference. So yeah, and carry on using 10x, I hope, and enjoying it, and giving me feedback. So yeah, I'll see you next time. It might be in a week, or maybe probably 2 weeks. I'll do the next one, but we'll see. I'll let you know on Twitch, on Twitter, sorry. So yeah, please follow me there if you want to keep up to date. So yeah, thanks for that, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye.